This podcast is supported by listeners like you. We're grateful for your tax-deductible donation at newthoughtphilly.org or the link in the episode description.
A practical prayer is a prayer that works.
These discussions between Reverend Bill Marcioni and Carol Lawrence dive into the details of how it works and how to work it.
Reverend Bill is a New Thought minister and the author of Practical Prayer for Real Results.
Your new life begins with a new thought.
Carol Lawrence is on a spiritual quest, finding the New Thought teaching after decades on the pulpit in 3 different traditional denominations.
I've got some questions.
Together, they're exploring the philosophy and activities that come together from many of the world's religions to create the practical spirituality that is New Thought.
Welcome to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol, here with Reverend Dr. Bill Marcioni.
We have an episode of the podcast today which has a very particular topic. And it is a personal particular topic because it's something that actually started happening to Carol over 20 years ago and is continuing to happen. And she...
I can't wait to...
She spiritually is saying... What the?
Yes.
So I will paraphrase the story as I understand it, and then you can embellish. So
Okay.
Way back in the good old days, near the turn of the century. Does that make it sound even longer ago?
Yeah,
before right after the turn of the century. As Carol was leading, had been hired to lead a church in the snooty suburb of Cherry Hill, New Jersey. And she took the leadership of this church, and they wanted to change it from crusty old traditional and bring in some newness. And so one of the ideas that Carol had, being brilliant, is let's use this room that nobody's using and make it into a place that's going to be welcoming to a younger generation, to people who don't necessarily like sitting in a wooden pew. Am I getting this right so far?
Yep.
Yeah. And so, and to make it work, she convinced the group, using her powers of persuasion, to get some custom chairs, some comfortable custom chairs in a custom color, just to make this room the right place for the church and for the youth. So they got the purple chairs. How many of them were there?
175.
Wow, 175 purple chairs in this auxiliary room, and the room was installed and decorated, and everything worked just fine, and it attracted the younger generation, just as it was supposed to. And then Carol left, and then they sold the chairs, and they turned the room back into who knows what they turned the room back into.
And they did.
And then Carol's husband, who's also in the church business, took over a church in Trenton, New Jersey, some ways up the Delaware River from Cherry Hill. And lo and behold, when he got there, there was a special room that had been equipped to attract a younger crowd, and it had the same purple chairs in it, making everybody scratch their head going, what? Again, is this right so far?
No. The only difference is that he got there and he saw the room and he said, let me buy some of your chairs.
Okay.
So he
instigated it. Okay.
Yeah, he bought some of those chairs.
He bought some purple chairs from the folks in Cherry Hill who didn't need them anymore. Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Okay. And then he left. He retired. Mm-hmm. And then another church in Trenton went and unretired him. And that was last year, I think.
Yes.
And when he got there, there was an unair-conditioned room in the unair-conditioned facility that somebody wanted to turn into a happening space, and there were the same purple chairs.
Yes.
Already there, ahead of the air conditioning, and presumably ahead of the youth.
Yes. Yes.
So
I'm still trying to figure out what the heck just happened here.
Right. Well, and I said that the answer starts with a C, and the C is consciousness, is what happened here. because you saw an opportunity. Now, the people in the original church 20-something years ago saw a need. We need to do something to attract a different group. And so they were focused on the problem. And you saw a much bigger opportunity of how do we create a space that's going to welcome in the next generation of people who are going to participate in this spiritual endeavor that we're upon. And through consciousness, you were guided to order purple chairs, 175 of them, nice, and equip the room. And that consciousness, together with the other work that you were doing and the purple chairs, attracted the people who you were looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And when you departed, so did your consciousness. And I'm vaguely remembering the stories that your consciousness is what drove you out of that particular establishment. And when you did, the chairs became much less relevant to the mission and the truth of the church. So they kind of sat there. They went fallow. And then your husband got a great idea because he knew the power and the energy and the consciousness behind the chairs. So when he was looking to do the same sort of thing, he says, I've seen this show before. Let me see if I can get the same chairs and not have to reinvent the whole thing, which is how farmers, they first plant the crop and it's a lot of work. And then the next year it's much less work because they know where the fields are going to go and they know which way they're going to till and they know, they get everything set up.
But
So
there's one thing I need you to understand this. He didn't know the chairs were there. He had no idea.
Well, he went looking for chairs.
He just went looking for a room where he could do something.
This was the first church that he went to?
Oh, the first church. Yeah,
The first
I'm
church.
sorry. I thought you were. I thought you were in the
No, the
second.
first
Okay,
church.
go ahead.
The first church. He went looking for the chairs because he knew that they worked, and it wasn't because of this the chairs starting with a C. It was because of the consciousness starting with a C, the different C, and it worked. And it worked. And then whatever it was that inspired him to retire, he left. And consciousness continues on. So he wasn't looking for a church. But the church was looking for somebody who could do what he did and had the consciousness that he could bring to their congregation. And that wasn't the first piece that went into effect, was hiring him. There was a lot of consciousness in wanting to create what he was able to bring. And part of it was what he had learned to bring from you. And somehow the chairs beat him there. It is going to work again.
Is it? Okay.
Oh, yeah. It's going to work again. I mean, they need to address all the issues. Like, it's currently early August, so a room without air conditioning and lovely purple chairs is not going to cut it. But so you got a year until you get to summertime again. You need the air conditioner.
We were both in awe when he told me the story because I didn't know where he was going until he said the purple chairs were there. And we can, because we both were in Trenton at the same time at some point, we both knew the journey of the chairs, but we never realized that he would meet them again at the place where he met them. This is just crazy.
That is.
And it leaves you standing there thinking, okay, this has got to be God because you just can't make this stuff up. So I'm looking at it as from a point of inspiration. What is inspiring about this story? Now, there's probably other things, and you probably see something much different than that. I'm still stuck on, oh, wow. Because there was so much hope and so much there was so much history in those chairs. When they arrived in Cherry Hill, the story just to get them there was a story all of its, by itself. They had to promise. I had to promise that these magic chairs are going to do something. You know what I mean? And it was like I had to make you see what the possibilities are just with these chairs. And it was more than the chairs, but it was the people, the energy and the fun that they represented that made the whole thing happen. Mm-hmm. But let me ask you this, because you use the word consciousness, and I get it. Mm-hmm. But I thought they bought into it until I left. And all of that left with me.
They bought into your idea.
Okay.
There was nobody there who apparently continued to own the idea. This was, we got Carol, and Carol's got this thing, and we're going to back Carol up, and we're going to do what Carol says, and they're going to be Carol's chairs and Carol's youth and Carol's room. And when Carol left, suddenly nobody owned it, and the energy dissipated. Now, my guess is that the energy dissipated in a lot of stuff at that church after you left.
Yeah, I can tell you that's true. I think that I'm sad. I'm still going through, feelings are still starting to come because I just got the end of the story, when I shared not too long before I shared it with you. And I'm really sad that happened because I was there 9 years. Mm-hmm. And that's a long time. Mm-hmm. It's a long time to see something build, work, have life and energy to the point that I didn't have to think about it anymore because this worked. So now I'm building on this constantly, and then I go and something happened. Mm-hmm. A lot happened, a lot. And I feel sad. I really do, because it wasn't for me.
Right.
It wasn't for me. It was for something much bigger.
Right. And you were there, and you were doing what was yours to do. And, back to the gardening metaphor, you saw this great piece of land, and you said, hey, let's tend the land this way, and we'll put in this particular crop, and look at what's going to grow. And you continue to tend that garden for 9 seasons, and it continued to grow and flourish and produce and bring all sorts of goodies into experience. And once you left, there was no gardener anymore. There was nobody who had the vision, willingness, skill set, desire, commitment, you fill in the blank, to go and tend the garden for another season. So it went fallow. And it's sad. Mm-hmm. It's sad, but, what you going to do? The gardener goes and becomes a farmer and is working a bigger piece of land, but the garden still gets left.
Yeah. I'm learning, even from what you're saying right now, I'm learning so much because I know who came behind me. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have a whole heck of a lot of hope for that, but I thought it was strong enough to last longer than it did, but it wasn't. I guess you have to, if you use the metaphor you have to keep tending it. You can't let it go, because if you do, it's not going to live.
Yep. Yep. And that's part of the cycle of life. Let's take a break and continue talking about things that could keep going, but somehow don't.
Learn to put practical prayer to work in your life. The steps are simple to learn and let you begin to get real results to create the life of your dreams immediately. Reverend Bill Marcione's widely acclaimed book, Practical Prayer for Real Results, gives you a clear summary of the New Thought principles behind practical prayer and the series of easy-to-understand steps found in the most effective prayers from religions and spiritual practices all over the world and throughout history. Practical prayer is not a replacement for your religion or practice. It's a technique to make the work you do in consciousness even more effective. The book includes 40 prayers on various topics that you can adapt as needed and use as your own. Practical Prayer for Real Results is available in paperback, Kindle, and audiobook on Amazon or at b-the-light.com. That's b-the-light.com.
Welcome back to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol, here with Reverend Dr. Bill Marcioni.
We're having a wonderful conversation about the purple chairs and the consciousness which created the environment where the purple chairs did such a wonderful job of making 9 years, a generation of youth feel welcome and comfortable and at home. And then when Carol left, the relevance of the chairs vanished. And then when her husband was looking for chairs, some of them went off to a different city. And those sorts of things happen all the time. Sometimes we notice that it's happening, and other times we don't. And we say in relationships that sometimes people are in our life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And when you first meet somebody, you don't know which one it's going to be. They might be there to let you learn something, and then as soon as you've learned it, they go away. And sometimes they're just there for a while, and then your orbits go in different directions, and you drift apart. And other people are lifers. They stick around, and it's a lifelong friend. It's somebody who you always, every time you get together with them, you feel like you've known them forever, and you just pick up a conversation that you might have drifted out of a year or 2 or 3 or 5 earlier. Mm-hmm. The same thing with purple chairs. They were there for a purpose. They were there for a reason. And that reason was the growth of what you were seeing in your ministry. So I had a similar experience. I inadvertently became a teen advisor. And this was in probably 2004, 2005. My daughter was 12, it was about to turn 13. And they invited a bunch of us to go to winter teen camp. This was the Centers for Spiritual Living, had a winter teen camp. And there were 3 girls at the church who were kind of qualified and the right age to go. The disadvantage is they hated each other. but the qualifying factor was that it was President's Weekend in the middle of February, and the teen camp was in Key West. So all they heard was wah, 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 Key West. And they said, okay, I'll go to Key West for a weekend, even with them. So the senior minister and I and these 3 girls went to the airport and flew down to Miami and got a rental car and drove down through the Florida Keys. And along the way, of course, they found out everything that they had in common with each other. And then the teen group weekend was transformational. It's like, oh my God, they'd been hearing about this teaching for most of their lives. But this was the first time that they actually got to embody it and experience it. And it was transformational for all 3 of them. And on the way home, as we were changing planes in the airport in Atlanta, they said, we want to have a teen group just like they do in Florida. And it was like, you remember in the movie The Secret where somebody says something and like the air shimmers and the earth kind of shakes and it's like, okay, something just happened. It was one of those moments. It's like, okay, we'll do that. And I had never seen myself as a teen advisor because teens are borderline personalities and they're very difficult to deal with. And I wasn't interested. But they were so passionate, and there were 3 of them. And the next week there were 5 of them. Little teen group started growing itself. And I was all about connecting other churches together. So I kept reaching out to other people in other churches and wound up going across denominational lines and wound up with a regional teen group in the Northeast that had 150 people in it and 75 of them showing up for the winter camp. And it was going along great. And along the way, I went into ministry. And so I had no idea what that was going to look like. And then there were some political changes in the organization, and they thought they could get rid of me and keep the teen group. And so that is what they tried. And it was remarkable how quickly the whole thing fell apart. It was absolutely remarkable. The winter teen camp that we've been doing in Medford Lakes, New Jersey for 10 years. They did it one more year in Medford Lakes, then they moved it someplace south, and they moved it to North Carolina. And then the people who were running it couldn't manage to get anybody to attend, and it just ended. And that's all about consciousness. Because if you think you can make something happen by doing something and controlling something in the world, and do that without the love and the passion and the skill and the sensitivity that started it in the first place, then it doesn't work. It's like learning to dance by counting the steps. You can look like you're dancing, but it's much different when you feel the groove and you learn the dance and you're just dancing.
Mhm.
So the same thing happens with the purple chairs. The purple chairs were it's not like you get purple chairs and you plant them in a room and suddenly youth grow.
No.
It doesn't
No.
work that way.
No.
What you plant is consciousness of saying this is going to be a welcoming space, and it's that whole big idea that you started with. And the purple chairs were one of the early side effects of that. And the other side effects of it were the group growing the way that it did. And when your consciousness left, then the idea went fallow.
Mhm.
And when your husband came up with a similar idea, the same chairs. Oh yeah, that'll work. Let's see if we can use those same chairs.
Mhm.
And then and it's continuing to work. Apparently he now knows how to do it. So the chairs beat him to the new church.
I simply cannot wait to tell him that. I can't wait. I can't wait.
It's a timing thing. Chairs like, where's Don?
But you know what? As you're saying this, I'm learning because I remember so vividly every thought that I had, the energy, the idea. I saw it, and I kept building and building, and sharing it, and selling people on the idea. And 175 chairs. They said, nobody, we don't have 175 people coming here, if you count the whole year, we don't have a cell. But I'm thinking, that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. Okay, we're going to do this. And they kept coming and they kept coming. But what I'm hearing from you is what the energy that I had, and I believed it. I had no proof.
No.
The only proof I had was, this ain't it right here.
Mhm.
This is never going to work. Let's, build and go for it, and really go for it. It wasn't a day that I woke up that I didn't believe and see that this was the right. I do it.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm learning from you. I get that. That it's consciousness. Yes.
One of my minister friends, who's a designer, a graphic designer by trade, says that everybody's creative. And then he mentions that people who don't have creative jobs hear people like him who work in a creative field say that everybody's creative and think that he's nuts or lying or making stuff up. But this is a perfect example. This was you being creative. This was you looking at a situation, a circumstance, an opportunity, and seeing something and getting the passion and the fire of the idea of what you saw, and then taking the steps to bring that to bring the reality of it, the experience of it, into alignment with the creativity of the experience that you've already seen.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's creative. Some people do it by writing plays. Some people do it by directing movies. Some people do it by running QuickBooks for an organization and doing it in a way that when the reports come out, everybody understands what we're talking about. And they say, I'm not creative. It's like, don't let me run your QuickBooks, because it will. Creative is not the word that you will use for the way that I'm running your books.
Yeah.
And for me, this story is a wonderful reminder from Spirit about how much fun this whole process can be.
Mm-hmm.
Some people think that spirituality is pious and you should do it in somber tones, and walk slowly, and you don't have to. You can be pious and spiritual and skip.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't you love to see the Pope skipping, wearing the robes?
Isn't it like, I guess it's like saying, okay, I see this is what it is, but I don't think that anything is supposed to be the way it is forever.
Right.
Especially if it's not working.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if it's not working. So you figure out, let's do something, anything,
Yeah.
and then go from there. You know, and you can always go back. And I mean, everybody, let me be clear, everybody didn't buy into this idea,
Mm-hmm.
but they gave me money
Mm-hmm.
to make it work.
Right.
Some of them didn't step foot in the room, but they made sure that it happened because they had a buy-in, their
Right.
grandkids and whatever. So I think you just don't know. Is it that you can overthink something?
Oh, sure.
Just go with it.
And my guess is that by the time you were 5 or 6 years in and it was working, that even the people who didn't particularly have enthusiasm for it said, well, this isn't my thing, but it's working. So good for her.
Yeah.
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 And probably in private, they were patting themselves on the back for giving you the latitude and the support and the money to go do this thing that they had no interest in.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I don't think it but good for me for saying yes.
Well, listen, I'll tell you how right you are. In a Baptist church, you got to get voted in and all that.
Mhm.
And one guy was very happy to tell me, you know, I didn't vote for you. I didn't like you. I didn't vote for you, but I believed in what you could do. And I'm standing there thinking like, and you tell me this, why? You know, I didn't care, but it is consistent with what you're saying. It's not me anyway. So whether you like me or not is immaterial, you know, and I think that all the time. I got 3 kids that love me and a husband that adores me. So if you don't like me, so let's just go on with the business here.
That's right. You just
Yeah.
excuse yourself from the crowd. Because,
Listen.
when you get to the point where you don't have to spend a whole lot of time with the people who don't like you.
I think this sounds bad, but it's really not that bad. People are in it for whatever they're in it for, you know,
Mhm.
whatever is important to them. And if you have an idea, I guess, that they see that will work for them, they don't have to like me. They just like my idea, you know, and you've been trying to figure out how to get your kids and grandkids to come to church. You're paying them and they won't come. But, you know, this oddball that comes in here and she's got a weird idea, whatever, and suddenly they're there more than you are. Okay, you still don't like me, but that doesn't matter. What we're
Right.
trying to do here is something bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the guy who comes up and says, hey, I didn't vote for you. It's like, well, here I am anyway. It didn't work.
Didn't you?
Voting against me didn't work. So, okay. Let's,
Hey,
see what,
where?
let's see what else you're not going to get.
You know, yeah. I guess it just takes all types. I don't know. See, May Spirit is big. You know, it cannot be about you. It can't be. It's got to be about something bigger than you are,
Mm-hmm.
because that's the only way you're going to get energy behind it. If you go with likes and you look at the frowning faces, I would have never stayed there. I never told you all of it. I wouldn't have stayed, but I would have never returned after the first meeting. But there was something bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And that has nothing to do with me. This just has to do with spirit.
Yeah. And you
You
get
know.
to tell some stories later on from a completely different perspective 22 years on. Let's take another break because I have an idea for a prayer that ties all this stuff together. It's Reverend Bill letting you know that the Practical Prayer for Real Results class is now available on demand. That's right, you can take it at your own pace, anytime you want. All of the information is at BeTheLight.com. That's B-the-light.com. You know where to find that stuff. The class is 5 lessons, broken down into 18 modules, and you can take them at whatever pace is comfortable for you. As you work through the process, it starts out with the theory, goes into the practice, there are experiential activities and exercises, and at the end of the program, you will wind up with an understanding of how practical prayer works, and a practical prayer for yourself that will work to create transformation in your life. And as you know, it works for everything. Take a look at the class online at BeTheLight.com. There's a sample lesson so you can see how the class is going to work for you and then dive in. The great news is it's on sale now. You can register and save $20 off of the regular price. I'm looking forward to seeing you in class.
Welcome back to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol, here with Reverend Dr. Bill Marcioni.
We have been having a wonderful conversation about how consciousness shows up in material form, and sometimes it repeats itself in very entertaining ways, like the purple chairs that have been chasing Carol and her family spiritually for the better part of a quarter of a century.
You think I ought to get one of those chairs and bring them to the house so I can
One.
just keep
Actually,
two.
You need two. You need one for you and one for your husband.
Yeah.
Yeah, and set up a little seating nook that means something to you.
Wow, that's interesting. Okay.
That'd be fun. And you don't need to get a pair from his church. Go back to Cherry Hill, because they still got a couple of them there.
No, they're not even there anymore.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
The whole church is gone.
Oh,
The whole building is gone. Another story.
They were done with you.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay.
Seriously.
All right. So I changed my mind. You can get one of the current crop purple chairs. And not everybody has specifically purple chairs happening in their lives, but we all have experiences where the pieces are fitting together in a way that's not working, and then we rearrange the same pieces and they fit together in a way that is working. And it happens in relationships, and it happens in workplaces, and it happens in the organizations that we're participating in, happens in families, happens all the time. Pieces fitting together in an unexpectedly effective and happy way. One of my favorite stories is about somebody who's unhappy with their job. And I've had these people come and ask me for practical prayer, because their boss is a jerk and everybody is feeling, they're being mistreated and nobody's having an opportunity to do anything right or do anything well. And it's dehumanizing. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly, and the prayer is not necessarily to find a different job, because you find a different job, you wind up with the same circumstance. The prayer is for all the pieces to fit together in a way that brings harmony and uplift to everybody. And the result of the prayer is not that the horrible boss gets swallowed by the earth and disappears forever. No, he gets promoted to be in charge of a different department where the people are all dysfunctional, and he will fit perfectly in with the dysfunctional arguing people. And the person who gets promoted to be in charge of the department is either the person we did the prayer for or their best friend, who knows exactly what needs to be done for the department. And the same group of people doing the same task for the same organization for the same pay are suddenly having a great time. And they're more effective, and everything is working harmoniously, and everybody still has a job working for the same organization. It is possible for the pieces to fit together in a way that brings harmony and uplift to everybody. We don't have to set the intention for something bad to happen to somebody we don't like. We can set the intention for something good to happen to the person that we don't like, and it takes them completely out of our experience.
Yes.
The infinite creative power that creates everything is perfectly willing to create that. So if there's a circumstance in your life that's not going the way that you want it to, where there's an obstacle or some blockage to the good that you see yourself experiencing, become aware of whatever that blockage is. And instead of seeing the blockage go away, the invitation is to know that you and the circumstance and the blockage can all reorganize themselves in a different way. The blockage doesn't have to evaporate. It might, but it doesn't have to. It can just go off and block something different. Or perhaps it will be the foundation of something where having a nice sturdy block that doesn't move is going to be helpful. It doesn't need to be in our experience anymore. And we know that this works because we know that there is one infinite creative power, one divine presence, one love that shares itself as all of its creations. Everyone is everything, everywhere. It's all that one divine presence taking its own form. And one aspect of it looks like me, and one aspect of it looks like each one within the sound of my voice, and one aspect looks like the blockages that each of us is seeing. And it's also expressing as the potential and the possibility for the pieces to rearrange in such a way to bring harmony and joy and uplift and peace and prosperity and richness and sweetness and goodness and creativity and love and connection and all of that into our lives. It is completely possible for the pieces to be rearranged, perhaps immediately, in a way that brings that same uplift to each of us and to everyone involved. So that's what I'm claiming. That's the intention that I'm setting. That's the invitation that I'm making to that infinite creative power. Knowing that we are participating in that creative process, knowing that the good that we're seeking is seeking us, I now call upon that infinite creative power to bring upon the changes, to let it happen. And I know it's already doing so. It's already happening, and I'm so grateful for it. I'm so grateful for the good that's already happening. And so with a deep feeling of thanks for all this good, I speak this word and I release it into that creative law that creates everything. And I know it's already creating this. This is already underway. It's happening now and continues to happen. And so it does, and so it is.
The Practical Prayer Podcast with Reverend Bill Marcioni and Carol Lawrence is a production of BeTheLight.com,
be-the-light.com,
where you can find more information about practical prayer for real results.
Our theme is by Music of Wisdom. You can learn about the spiritual community of New Thought Philadelphia with daily guided meditations,
Weekly celebrations of spirit,
and Reverend Bill's classes in practical spirituality
at newthoughtphilly.org.
This podcast is supported by listeners like you. We're grateful for your tax-deductible donation at newthoughtphilly.org or the link in the episode description.